So when they search, I give them something very quickly so they can make a decision as it relates to my particular brand or not. We're learning a lot about not just the decisions people make, but how they go about making those decisions. We talk a lot about Google, and Google gets a lot of credit for the last click, but we've done a lot of research about what are the attributions that get you to that last click on that particular product. What is the display media that person's been exposed to? What have they been exposed to in other media before they get to Google? And how do we then put the right messages to those people so when they get to Google and make that search, they want to come to us? But understanding that data, what is the message, who is it delivered to, when is it delivered, and on what device the person wants is absolutely critical. And I would say that everybody in here, the one who wins and really starts digging into the data and really starts to analyze what the kind of connection points are between messages and action will win within this marketplace. We have found that very strongly in the United States. People that were very deeply engaged within Google on the performance marketing side ended up very quickly understanding how that landscape worked, and were able to, as Mark talked about earlier, move up the funnel. Because Google's phenomenal at capturing demand, but our jobs as brand leaders has to be to foster and create the demand, not just harvest demand that's out there, but actually create it. So one of the other things that I've been talking about a bit that is incredibly critical for us, and that is that we try to turn consumers into brand champions. The social aspect of brands it's not even the new frontier right now. It is the middle of what is happening with brands. You saw a lot of examples that Mark gave, and they are really just examples one after another of how you can start to get real scale through what end up being not the most elaborate programs. So I think there's two kind of misnomers. One, for many people, is they think that social should be cheap. It is not cheap. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It's a 24/7 job once you start in social. You have to have content. You have to be feeding that audience. You have to be listening harder to that audience, not talking to them, but listening to them and working for them and giving them the kind of content that teaches them more about the brand, but allows them to then pass that knowledge on to other consumers. But building brands as real, consumers as real brand champions is absolutely critical in this new age. So I've seen, as I've been here, and I've seen the hands kind of raising up, how many people have tweeted, how many people have been on their social sites, etc. It's pretty clear that this group is incredibly plugged in to what is happening within the digital world. And so when we talk about active brands, we want to not only understand about brand championships, but it also has something to do with just the basic notion of social. So if you see a movie, you want to tell somebody about it. If you read a book, you want to talk about it. If you like a particular brand, you want to wear a shirt that kind of professes that brand is all about you. And all of these things for us are things in which you're trying to create an active brand. We think about brands like Coca-Cola and others as being iconic brands, brands that are just bigger than life, that people think, in many ways are pervasive, they're everywhere, and they've been around forever. We think now that active brands are the new iconic, and that any brand can be active. It's simply a matter of doing, we think, one of 5 things. One is pursue a purpose. And pursue a purpose is, like you saw in Starbucks, things beyond the selling of your brand itself, the actual business. 2 is to create experiences and not ads. 3 is to gain participants, not consumers, but real participants. 4 is to operate in the now. We'll talk about that in a bit. And the 5th is to be forever young. So I'll look at these a little bit more closely. So pursue a purpose. Pursuing a purpose isn't simply that I like the brand. It isn't simply that I'm in a club, that I'm a member of a club. It is really to pursue a purpose beyond what the brand does for a living. So we have a client, American Express. And obviously what they do is you have a credit card and they allow you easy access to buy things. But what they wanted to do is they give a lot of money away for charity. And they wanted a way to connect their consumers with, and make them participants in helping them figure out how to give the money away. So we put together a program for them that connected their consumers in a project called Members Project, because at American Express you're a member, at Members Project. And we allowed them, as members, to dictate where American Express should give their money. American Express got 1.5 million people to sign up and vote on where they should put their money. And then when they did some research, their net promoter score, the score that says, I would recommend American Express to a friend, rose 85% on a very simple program, and something that advertising by itself cannot do. The second is to create experiences, and not just ads, but experiences that people can feel and touch. We did one for Snickers, and I think Mark had a couple of them actually in his videos, but we did one for Snickers in which their whole idea is that it's about fuel, not necessarily candy, but fuel, and trying to connect to see if who could play the longest and join the Guinness Book of World Records of who could be in the longest football game, American football in this case. And so we put a program together where people through Facebook all joined in, and teams, I think it was 13,000 teams were created and all started playing football to see who would end up winning. And the winning one made the Guinness Book of World Records, and it was 42 hours. But it really spurred an incredible amount of attention and conversation around Snickers, and really got the brand, the consumers, and made them participants, and got them very excited. The third is to gain participants. So this one is kind of a classic, and I imagine many of you have the same problem, but we work for many packaged goods firms, and for a lot of the companies, they've been advertising for a long time, taking different versions of an advertisement, but advertising for a long time and finding it very difficult to really generate sales. So we have a client named by the Kraft, it has a product by the name of Philadelphia cream cheese, and it's a cheese that you spread on bread, etc., and you eat it, bagels, etc., and it's fantastic. But it had hit a ceiling in terms of growth. And Kraft has kitchens, so in the kitchen they're always coming up with new recipes, and the way you tend to drive sales in this business is you come up with new recipes, somebody loves that recipe, and they start cooking it, and the whole country starts to find out about that recipe, and all of a sudden they start buying more Philadelphia cream cheese. Well, we decided to put a program together and leveraged digital, but put together videos surrounded by one woman who was kind of a well-known cook who liked Philadelphia cream cheese. And she brought in, over time, through our program, and this is about content creation, because I really think that content creation is the future of creating these types of experiences and getting participants. But we created a program around cooking in which all these women decided to join up and talk about their favorite recipes or ones that they had just created. So in 1 month, 10,000 new recipes were created by this community, where Kraft was only able to do 850 a year. And their sales, for the first time in 5 years, grew 8%. It's absolutely incredible to grow 8% after 5 years of no growth and doing this program. The program also garnered 10 million views online. So it gave you a sense for, we had tapped into an audience, and now we had a relationship with this audience, and now it was up to us to figure out, okay, what's next with this audience? How do we keep Kraft very in the now with this audience? And that's the fourth kind of pillar of being an active brand, and that's operating in the now. And that's really about being persistent and iterative and trying new things with your audience. But it's constant. It's one person at the client or one person at the agency that is full-time talking to consumers, understanding what they want, and providing real value back to them. And the fifth one is to be forever young. And I think for a lot of our clients, that means changing all the time and taking up the mantra that change is constant. I think about this almost like cartoon characters. You watch The Simpsons or whatever it might be, but they don't age. they always stay current. And for a lot of our brands, we have to keep pushing them to stay current in the environment. So for General Motors, we put together a program for them where they take on their site, they aggregate all the social feeds on their site, good and bad, which they never would have done a couple of years ago. So the consumers, as they go to their site, are always seeing what people are talking about and staying, in this particular case, forever young, so they don't get outdated and they stay very current with their consumers. I've talked about the 5 qualities of being an active brand, and you can see how a lot of them overlap, and I think that's a good thing. I think they need to overlap because I think in this new environment, everything, we talked about it a little bit this morning, is fluid. We need to remain very fluid in how we do marketing. We need to be very fluid with our clients on what they do with their budgets and not to be as regimented as we have been in the past. Those qualities of an active brand are based on the foundation of the digital landscape and the future of advertising. It's mobile first, it's the use of data, and it's gaining brand champions. So in closing, I would say that the future of advertising is the rise of an active brand in a mobile world. And I think that's an incredibly exciting place to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin.